But now we are together.
We're
Wonderful.
together. So how was Sunday so far?
Oh, Sunday was a really sun day with a lot of sun. First on the rooftop. I had a wonderful concert last night together with a Bansuri. The program was named Vina and Venu, a wonderful kind of subject and experience. So the Sunday was mainly relaxing, resounding the
Love.
remembrance from yesterday night, and then after the yoga session, enjoying the ocean, which is just 200 meters from the place where I'm sitting. Wonderful experience and best way to spend a Sunday if I would not also spend my Mondays like that. So this is life of a musician. Always a holiday.
That's a very great state to be in, and I guess many people are struggling to reach that kind of a situation in their lives. So I'm kind of envious about what you're doing.
You know, this is the cover up. This is the Insta version of what the life of a musician is. Of course, we are not talking of the 95% of hours you are not seeing, where we have to sweat it out and sit it out and cannot go to the beach and the ocean. But this is really something, you know, and I don't want to go too deep into it. After I don't remember even now 35 years being with the whole music and digging your head into it, putting your life into it, living it. The way how you interact, the way how you experience the whole subject of music, it definitely changes. It doesn't change in the intensity, I would dare to say, but how the face is coming to you, that's very different. Right from the deep struggles in the beginning, the doubts whether that is anything you could pursue in your life, then the long run kind of, it's like climbing up the mountain and then reaching somewhere, resting a little bit, reaching more, seeing that the peak is still far, far away. But on the journey, I think like on every lifetime journey that is not necessarily only for musicians like that, you get a bit more relaxed with the subject because you see life cannot be only just a hard struggle. That doesn't make much sense. So then you accept the invitation from the beach and the ocean just beside you also. And then you might experience it just being in the waves, dancing with the waves, being played by the waves is as much music as if you sit with your instrument, which, by the way, is just with us here today on Saraswati Puja. It's a really wonderful date you have chosen, Aparna Ji, and I'm very happy to be with you here.
You know, all good things happen to me by chance. It was I'm not aware of the significance of the day, so it's good to know.
It's looking like by chance, but if you go a little bit deeper, you know, I could again say this is like music. Everything on stage looks so out of the moment. If the people would just know what we do to create that magic in the moment, you know. Of course, there's a structure, there's a law behind this thing, which looked like so, you know, like being just there.
Yeah. One need to be really destined to be there also, no, Carsten?
That's another question. How much of effort, how much of awareness, attention one has to spend to see this thing? But the funny thing is two people looking at the same ocean, at the same waves, and seeing two completely different appearances.
Right.
Yeah. That's what comes in.
Let me you know, break you here and come to this very, very simple but most important question. How did you come to India? Why?
I was not walking, fortunately. I was not even swimming. I was flying. So I think coming to India by flight is a very different experience than a few hundred years ago when you really had to make the journey. No, it's not a joke only. It's even when you return to the world which you defined once as your own, and then suddenly you find yourself in another universe. The body and the mind don't even have the time to adjust. That's always a little bit like a time travel issue. I don't know how much experience you have with flying in and out to different parts of this world.
Very limited, but
Yeah.
But yes, I can relate to very much what you're talking about. I
So,
can just relate that.
but that was not your question. It's
No,
just like,
I want
it's
to know
just,
what is that fascinating thing that spending 35 years in this country, coming from a very different background. Um, I don't think I can't move ahead without mentioning the discipline part of it from a country like Germany, the structured, the way of life. From that, you're jumping into such a great combination of different ways of life. I mean, we do a lot of things here in India. So, how did you get attracted to this diverse universe in its own right?
yeah, I think you mentioned one of the strongest point, which not only pulled me maybe 35 years ago when I came the first time, but is pulling me continuously again and again. And maybe that is also, is one of the questions which you ask yourself as somebody coming from a different culture, living finally here, and then seeing so many people which are coming again and again, going back to theirs, returning again, and then others which would never do it or can't do it or try to do it and can't. So what is the chemistry, which is the physics, which is pulling you in and out? And one of the things which you rightly mentioned, if you compare especially the German culture and way of doing things, and the Indian way, how life is going here, the unobstructed way life is allowed to flow here. This is really one of the best answers I have found why people are attracted and pulled here, because otherwise logic-wise, it doesn't make sense. Why would you go for a country where most of the Indians would readily tomorrow jump and swim over the ocean, like somebody just said a few days ago? He said if the rules and regulations of passports and visa would be open, he said 70% of Indians would readily swim over the ocean. Still, I see a trend to reverse that. But so why people coming here? Why I came here? So partly, of course, music was one of the big subjects.
Okay.
And there's always some actual things on the surface, and then there are things, of course, which are behind the kind of events happening. And in my case, I must very clearly say, I grew up in a very, what could you say, secured kind of environment of East Germany. Politically, we were kind of unable even to leave the country, apart from very few exceptions. We didn't have the possibility, we didn't have the means, we didn't have the passports, whatever, even to go to India.
Okay.
So I grew up, let's say, for 18, 19 years without a single trace of being connected to India, not even in music form, not even in art and culture. And just when I was around 20, the whole opening, the reunion of the two parts of Germany happened. And with that, a lot of possibilities came up and experiencing a lot of different new things. And one of the things happening to me that I came across Indian classical music.
Okay.
You could say, but just by chance, of course, there were some more things happening.
Okay.
And but I picked that kind of a thing. I listened to it. I was already deeply into music, into theater, into cinema.
Okay.
I was a kind of art cinema editor at this point of time. And it drew me with such a power that, let's say 3-4 months later, I did my first journey to India. I spent 3 months over here, mainly in an ashram of my spiritual Guruji, Santaka Singh Ji. And I got initiated in a path called Sant Mat, where we meditate on something called inner sound and life. That's maybe too much of details, but I'm just mentioning that because that actually has been an initiation, not only to a spiritual process, but also to an outer process, which brought me in and outside to be connected with the essence, I would say, of what I see in Indian culture and, of course, also Indian art and music. And possibly your next question will be, so then, okay, right, you are in India, that's good and fine, but why Rudra Veena? Why Rudra Veena? Play sitar, play tabla, play flute.
No. My next
No.
question is not that. No. Describe that moment. When you come to a new place, you go through a lot of things. You find new stuff. So that's very apparent. But describe that particular moment when you decided that this is what I'm going to do in India. I'm going to go ahead with Rudra Veena. What was that moment? How, it doesn't happen in a minute or in a second, I know, but there is one point where you fix onto this. If you could explain that. I know it's a very private moment, but if you can share that with us, because many people, including me, struggle to find that moment which eventually unfold as the purpose of life. So as far as I can see, your purpose of life is to carry this legacy of an instrument like the Quina, and that's not easy. It's not easy to stick on to anything for that matter for a very long period of time. So how did you discover the purpose of your life, if you can?
See, one thing is a question, do we really believe of a purpose in life? I can confirm it in the way that I would say always, I would sign it always straight away. If you have something in life which you can hold beyond yourself, that makes life somewhat worthwhile living. Anything doesn't need to be so exclusive like a Rudra Veena, because that makes it again very difficult to hold it all the time over the head. If you would see the full nature of the beloved Vina and would see the weight of it,
I know.
Like you said, to carry on the tradition. Often when the people ask me about that, I'm saying back, yes, literally carrying it on my shoulders,
Yes,
and
yes.
and that means, when I come to visit you very soon, I will carry around 50, 60, sometimes it's 70 kgs of baggage along with me. And sometimes you really have no other choice than to carry it on your own shoulder. There is no other way. So you have to be also very fit for that. But coming back to the moment, of course, the moment is not a moment. It's a growing. The moment when the seed starts to sprout, or when the flower starts to turn into a fruit, when the fruit finally gets ripe, there's a lot of process behind that. We like, of course, as Instagram people and TikTok people, we like to see the moment. We don't want to wait for years or lifetime of process, but I can assure you, as less it has a value for anybody around that, all the seeds for whatever I do now, they're certainly reaching back lifetimes. You cannot just come by incident somewhere, do something, and find that nice, and then you say, okay, let's do it. Yeah, basically outwardly we do this, and that's the best thing what you can do. But then there are so many obstructions coming, so many things, because it's not. If you see today, often people ask me, so Rudra Veena, why it is so rare? How many people? And then I say, generally we are a handful of people who are regularly performing. Of course, there are more students. Of course, a few more people have the instrument at home, try to play. But why it is not showing up more? So in one way you could say, okay, is it missing dedication? Is it missing chance? Is the world not ready for it? And everything of that you could say, yes. But then if you answer the question, or try to answer the question, why then this person is doing it? And why that person had to come from a different continent to do it now here, There's a lot of structure behind that. And the first 15 years, I would say, where I didn't live continuously in India. I had to go up and down. I had to always turn between the worlds and make the way ready for what I do today. For the last 15 years, I'm mainly living here and doing the music. And I'm rather visiting Europe, like for concerts or other countries like that. So to get the structure ready, it's a tree which has to grow, Otherwise, there will moments come you will not be able to proceed. And there's, of course, a lot of, again, I would say, whether it's valuable for people to hear that or not, there's a lot of things, of blessings, which in a way have to come to make it happen. Yes. Beside your dedication, beside your devotion, beside your madness to indulge in something which in a material way,
right.
This is what I tell people when they ask me, and they sometimes think, oh, this guy is really something, when they ask me, so how do you do it? How can I do it? How I become a Rudra Veena player? And I say, well, you have to be prepared for the biggest professional suicide you can ever do. Take anything in the world, but don't this. If you plan to have a living, if you plan, it's just not made for it. It's just not made for it. And then the question comes up, but how do you exist? How do you live? And that's a little bit of a miracle.
Yes. So, I'd like to come to the event that we are trying to put together on the 15th and 16th of this month. What can somebody expect from that kind of a session? A very simple question.
Okay, so
what are we trying to do?
Let's maybe mention what are these sessions that we are on the 1st, on the 15th, we are planning this Rudra Veena Baithak, a kind of informal sitting where the audience, musicians, it's a very old tradition for this type of a music. That's actually the best setting in which this music can flower and bloom.
Right.
I mean, now for the last, 50, 60, 70 years, because of social, political kind of turns, classical music has turned towards concert halls, big festivals and whatever. But I can assure you, and I'm sure this is for most classical musicians the same, we always prefer to sit in a kind of surrounding where we can see face to face. We can see the reaction of the audience to every swara, every tone we are playing, because that's going back into the music. When you sit on a blinded kind of a hall, it's not happening. So we're planning to give this kind of an atmosphere in your newly opening founded Center for Learning in Wayanad.
Yes.
And I told you, you might be not aware, but to inaugurate it with this kind of instrument, with this kind of a music coming, this is really something very, very special. I'm not saying because I would be special or even that instrument here. I'm saying it for the kind of, you could say vibration or whatever it brings to the place.
Yes.
Something which even, I would say, 2-3 generations before, the people understood much better. Right. Which today, being very modern 21st century people, we still do pujas, but we do it more in a functional way than in a sensitive way to see why I would do this. What's coming back for me, How can I receive blessings and things? Well, So, okay, even if we do it just for a good vibe, for a good atmosphere, whatever you want to call it, that's one thing. And so you will have the chance to listen to the instrument, which is otherwise, as I said, quite rare to catch on the concert stage even. It's happening very rarely. And on the next day, what we plan then, what we call a Naada yoga workshop, is to open a little bit the curtain behind the whole mystery of what you hopefully can experience on Saturday. Mm-hmm. When you give yourself to the sound, and it doesn't matter you have experience in classical music, in Hindustani, Carnatic classical music, in Vina, no Vina, vocal, instrumental. It doesn't matter really. As long you can just be along with us and give yourself to the process, something is going to happen.
Okay.
And where it carries you, that depends very much of your kind of dimensions which you nurture within yourself. But I can promise you, you will be carried somewhere. So on the next day in this workshop, it's a very limited time we will have there. I think we plan it for 4 hours or something like that, right? So it's more a teaser we are giving there. Otherwise, we would have to work more on it. Yeah. But it's an invitation to a little bit open the curtain behind this mystery, which we call sound. Or if we take that word, Naad.
Right.
So it sounds maybe again a bit too technical or too esoteric from whatever end of the world you are coming. But in the base, it's the understanding that whatever we have in this creation, there is in one or the other way a sound, a vibration behind it. Right. If you want to go a little bit deeper, if you go into any scriptures or text, it's very astonishing if you check, that you find in the Vedas, as well, like in the Bible, some quote going. The Vedas, of course, talk of Brahman. In the Bible, it's something like this: in the beginning was a word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. So, what is that word? Apparently, it's a sound. Apparently, it's a vibration, right? So, and then, of course, being in India, there's nobody which has not heard about this primordial sound, which we call which now has become the short form, yoga short form of Om, even in the country of its origin. But again, if you see just this syllable, Aum, Aum, and the versions of that becoming Amen, Amen, Om. There's so many kind of things. So, but what I can see from that is whatever religion, whatever time, whatever geographical zone, there was a common understanding that there is something. There's something beyond, and this found an expression. And when we dive into it, either unconsciously as we do it when we experience a musical concert, what is music in a way? Music is just a structured kind of sound by whatever aesthetics we have created, what we have understood. And in that form, in a way, when we structure it in a certain way, it has an effect. It has a more direct effect than any normal sound just will have like that. So looking into that, how sound works in our system. On one side, you love to call this event a sound meditation event because that makes the most sense for you. You sit there, you meditate on the sound. That's one way. But then let's take the other side. Even without being a musician, everybody of us has already an inbuilt instrument. Nobody actually needs to rely on something like that. Here, the best Vina is already inbuilt. And in fact, we use the word Vina also for the vocal, for the voice, for the human voice. It's a Gayatri Vina. So in the workshop, of course, we don't want to make you a singer. We don't want to make you a Sarigama show winner.
Why not? Somebody is very intrigued. Why not?
Okay, we will take it from there. Let's see afterwards. What we will see there is actually by using the own voice, that there's no more impactful kind of an instrument than your own voice.
Right.
Because before the sound comes out of your whatever structure of your body, of your vocal cords, and reaches anybody else, the impact is on your whole system. So that's a very natural thing. If I see that sound by its own, by its geometrical structure, by its kind of impact, can have a kind of effect, it would make very much sense to use your own instrument. Of course, I can sit down, I can listen to somebody else, I will connect with that. Possibly he will connect with me and create the kind of music which I at this moment need. Right. There's a whole mystery about that, which is actually no mystery. It's like we are talking right now. You're bringing something, I'm answering something. You will reply to that. This is an interaction we are doing. Right. So this kind of subjects we will try to explore as much as possible in that time. And I'm pretty sure from the experience I have from similar workshops, whoever comes there, the background is really doesn't matter. The only thing is you're open, you want to be there. Whether you have sung before, whether you have a musical experience or not, that really doesn't matter. It's not about that. It's really not about that. It's about your connection with sound and maybe, just going even from what we call, and that's again a very different dimension. We have something which we call ahat and anahat naad. It's a material sound and more subtle sound. This is what all the kind of scriptures again talk about, especially the concept of Naada Yoga in a way defines sound in different dimensions. If you want to take it in a very scientific way, I was just seeing today an image which reminded us on a very scientific proven fact. It said human beings perceive light in a range of 430 to 790 terahertz, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And sound from 20 to 20,000 kilohertz. This is just a small bandwidth of the whole kind of
spectrum.
What light and sound as a vibration are there.
Right.
So it should remind you that whatever we see and perceive is just but a limited scope of what actually exists.
Right.
To broaden this kind of a range,
Right.
the sensibility, this is something which unconsciously happened, for instance, when you listen to a kind of music like that of the Rudra Veena. You might not be able to explain why you are suddenly so much more. And even it is just physically because the instrument is so silent, so you have to open your ears a lot. No, it's more about the subtle things.
Right.
So the whole art and the whole science of what we call Nada yoga, yoga, of course, to connect with something, to unite with something, is through the sound. And in that way, you could say through the more grosser types of sound, even the more material types of sound, to open your ability to perceive possibly something of the more subtle. How
Right.
much, in which way, that's a very individual experience. But the starting point, the lift-off point for the airplane, that's the airport we can offer.
So from this is what I understand from what you just told. Right? Let me just
Yeah.
try to sum it up. You can correct me if I'm wrong. So this is going to be an experience for people to have a journey inward
Yeah.
within them, and maybe they can start practicing something on a daily basis using their own sound, so that there is more clarity in their perception, not just about music, but in general about life. You become very sensitive to the subtleties of life. Can I say that?
Yeah,
Because,
definitely you can say that. How much you keep the sensibility, this is all, this is up to you, how much you keep up the kind of practice, how much you keep yourself within that. That's something we experience with everything. We are very eager on a certain subject. We are diving into it. We can't live without it. And then life changes and we all forget about it. And then 5 years later, we open up that little, whatever memory note we had about it and say, oh my God. So this is up to you, how much you keep this alive. But definitely it's a possibility to take a seed, to give the initial water,
right,
and then you can continue from
from
that,
there.
definitely.
So now one question that I have is, what if somebody is getting very excited and wants to learn Rudra Veena? You never know. So what would be the next step for
Are you
them?
trying to threaten me?
See, it might sound as a threatening in the beginning stage, but for people who might think that, they don't know what is in store.
Yeah, well, what you know, for most of the time, of course, when I get this question today, this inquiring, okay, so I'm so excited about it, I want to learn it. What are the steps? Where can I get an instrument? Where can I get a teacher? What do I need to do? It's and one wonders why it would not work like anything else in this world. I found something interesting. I'm inquiring about the background of it, maybe checking the finances I need for that, the time, the energy, and whatever resources I need, right? So it's not a stupid question, but the answer might be not so encouraging for most of the people. In a way, of course, it's like everything we want to approach, or let's say like every other music, you need to really make it a part of your life. And that doesn't mean, okay, so you live your full-time life, 15 hours for the company and the family and this and that, and then half an hour you can pull it out, or on Sundays you make it 1 hour because you have a little bit more time. That won't work, not just for technical reason, but even for simple, what will I say, for satisfaction, for your own satisfaction. Why I'm saying that is the decision to learn something like a Rudra Veena. That's basically a decision to turn your life towards that. But that's not only for Rudra Veena. That's a lot of matters. Unless you put yourself totally for it, there's no chance to reach anywhere. And
Can I interfere? Now, this is a time when we have information overload. So anything and everything can be exciting for people. I see a lot of people taking time off their mobile phones also. People are trying to again revisit the habit of reading books. about slowing down, forest bathing, cooking, this, that, and what not. Okay, and I myself have been part of that kind of a process in a way. Then I
Yep.
suddenly realized, okay, why am I doing this? Is it really because I want to do it, or is it because of the digital peer pressure, if I can say so? So, but approaching an instrument like Rudra Veena, in whatever small or big scale it is. So, from a guru like you, what would be the process like? That's what I'm trying to understand. So, the basics, like, are you available online? So, will we have to shift to Pondicherry to, you know?
Now, right now, the base is based in Kolkata, but it will be soon in Pondicherry.
Ah,
That's cool.
okay.
See, fortunately now, even those people who carry the old traditions have to go with the time. Otherwise, the traditions definitely will vanish much faster than they already vanishing. So even I had to wrap my head around. Until the lockdown, I will be very honest. I was not open to even give online classes because I was arguing that the subtleness of sound which we deal with could not be transmitted through a media like the online media. Now, technical development, let's say, and then plus the experience we had in the lockdown that nothing was working, made me see it a little bit different. I see it today rather as a great option for people which cannot just cover the miles to come. And me personally in India, and we also continuously traveling to stay in touch and do the things. It doesn't mean it can replace completely the physical meeting between the teacher and the student.
Right.
Um, so these possibilities are there, but before I would anybody encourage to go really to attain an instrument, which is a long other's journey on its own. We will not discuss it here right now, because simply, there are so few players, so few students. It doesn't make sense for the shops who used to manufacture that to specialize on it. It's a very material kind of a problem. If you would have a real market, we would have real people putting their head into it. It's not there. It lead to the situation that I, over the last, now it's the 16th year, manufacture my own Vinas in Kolkata in a workshop with the help of local craftsmen. And that was the only way for me to get the instruments in a quality I could deal with. This is, of course, not a solution for other people. And if we depend now, we're all working in our own way to improve the situation. But it starts with that problem.
Okay.
Where to get an instrument. It always has been, and it is still the most expensive instrument. We're talking here of initial investments of minimum a lakh rupees. And if you want to have a better instrument, easily it becomes 3, 4, 5 lakhs,
Okay.
even beyond that.
Okay.
And that's not something which you try and then after 6 months you just say, okay, that was that, So I learned for that reason, we are a little bit reserved, but there is a good pass through or what you could say, a transition.
Right.
Whenever you want to learn the Rudra Veena, because the music of the Rudra Veena is basically a vocal music. The base of that music is vocal.
Right.
So all of the students actually have to go through vocal practice. I also had to do this with my Guruji, Ustad Asad Ali Khan Saab, and then later on I learned from a singer, Pandit Ashish Sankritayan.
Okay.
From the Daga tradition, and this is the only way, in a way, to understand the subtleties of this whole music.
Right.
And then you try to incorporate on the instrument. So starting when you don't have an instrument, to see at least the music itself, which is the real thing. You can do it easily with a voice, and you might even be happy to just use the voice and that's it. And you never have the problem to carry 50, 60 kgs with you.
Right.
Wonderful. And if then after a year, after 2 years, after 3 years, whatever the process is still calling out, saying, no, it must be the Veena, then I generally start to encourage. Then generally I, of course, help with whatever is possible to make it happen. And then still it is in your hands what you make out of it, because finally the guru can give you anything. It's you who has to let the plant grow, Everything will be there, but it's your job,
Right.
So
this is a very basic or from a student perspective. How many hours do you practice every day? I'm sure you can't one fine day say that, okay, I'm that really cannot play.
Shall I shock you now?
I have some numbers in my head, but I'll act as shocked. Okay.
See, we have all these numbers in the head of the previous gurus of the generations which didn't have any iPhone, Insta, live calls and whatnot. They didn't have to tackle all this kind of craziness of 21st century. So there are the stories of musicians, basically like the saints also. When they went into meditation, they even tried to defy not gravity, sometimes gravity also, but the sleep, you know. So that is stories you have seen. There's nothing for me anymore, but there used to be something. So you would take your hair and you would bind it on a nail on the back of the wall, so that whenever you doze in by playing or in the meditation, you would be put up back. So these days are gone. Relax. I'm sometimes surprised. I'm sometimes surprised when I see the ability of people today, what they can take and what they not can take. And I'm not talking even of the hours you can sit. You know, when my Ustad tested me sort of first time, the first thing he will ask to sit in Vajrasana, you know, on the knees. Because the way we played the Vina in the traditional way, you had to take it on the shoulder, sitting in Vajrasana. And you know, it's a challenging yoga asana. Even for most people, after 5 minutes, they will start wiggling, doing this and that, because you can't anymore.
5 minutes, even the thought of sitting in Vajrasana, I'm tired.
So that was his way to give the message. What do you sing? How you will continue with your dreams of day and night, I'm going to practice Guruji. Day and night, only I will do this, you know, my full. So there is a vision, there is a ideal, and there is a reality. And between all of them, you have to make your way as good as possible.
Right.
You know, after so many years dealing with that, of course, I had been phases where I really wanted to know it. I have really see with the Rudra Veena, it's usually so challenging because of the whole pressure tension we have over that, the heaviness of the instrument. You can't go just and play 15 hours or 20 hours a day. You would break the physical body. It's not possible. Simply not possible. So you have to be a bit smart. You have to be smart how you part your day, what kind of resting times you put in between, how you use those times to listen to music, to sing, to make it up. To be with music and to do riyas doesn't mean you have to sit just with the instrument.
Right.
You know? So when you broaden it up to that extent, then a lot of things are possible. But the other more challenging thing is the business of people today. If I would take any student and say, okay, right, well, so you come and you live there and whole day you are busy with either music, listening, doing, you won't find anybody being ready for that.
Right.
Not even because people don't like to do it, because life is challenging like that. No, I have to go this job, I have to go this education. Most, even the students in India now, and in the West, it's also not very, very different. They are around 30 when they come to the point that they say, okay, I want to do something for myself. I have done this education, I got a job, I got a family. Now I want to start playing. Now, I came also very late to my start, mid of my 20s, but that was very late also in a way, you know. But to seriously do something at that age becomes very challenging.
Right.
So you have to arrange yourself within the possibilities, within your ambitions. And what is really helpful, I would say, for the Rudra Veena, what I started with when I told you, you know, there's possibly no better professional suicide than to plan to become a great Rudra Veena player. If you accept that fact and you know that you are going to do each and everything what you do, what you can do, but you don't do it for that kind of a success. You do it simply out of the passion you have for it, whatever you want to call it, you know, the burning love for it, and because it's the best what you could find.
Right.
So then you do it, and you naturally will do it as good as you can under your circumstances, because there's also no pre-written book which says guideline crash course for Rudra Veena dummies.
Yes.
You know, there is no way like that. You have to make it just.
You have not yet answered my question in
Okay.
numbers.
Tell me.
how many hours do you practice a day? I have a very tiny part of my brain that is intelligent and functional. So I think I understand the numbers better.
See,
I definitely
numbers,
appreciate the context you have set in,
numbers.
but
Why I'm not giving you numbers? Because it will just churn up the wrong discussions.
no,
It's not the numbers.
I'm asking
It's not a
about your.
quantity. It's a quality. And my numbers on the instrument have steadily decreased now. That's but that is not, if I say that now and then somebody who is in the starting shoes and will say, oh, this guy also says you don't need to practice so much, it's better, there comes a point when you have stabilized your muscles, your muscle memory and things. There comes a point when you actually have to leave off the physical work. You have to digest, you have to go into the mental maturing of things. The wine becomes then just tasty, sometimes by not doing.
Right.
You do by not doing.
Right.
But if I tell that now as a recipe for somebody who begins, it will be the complete wrong message, right? So I had times where I try to practice something like 16 hours a day, inclusive all the kind of things, and I have now days where I'm getting up, sitting in the breeze of the ocean breeze on the roof, going leisurely for a swim in the ocean, and then by evening I will just unpack the Vina and say, oh, let's have a nice hour or two, That's good enough. That's good enough because then the process really happens on a different scale.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think it's about clearing up the chaos around you. What I'm trying to say is when you practice more, like for 16 hours, 20 hours, because I'm trying to connect it with the normal life, where every other Malcolm Gladwell tells you that you have to practice 1,000 times, 1,000 times to master a trick. Yes, that is true, but then you reach a point of I don't know if excellence is the word. I think it's slightly above that, where you have a union with the instrument. And like you said, then it is about the quality of time that you spend with the instrument. And there is no physical realm to it, but something above that. Not even the mind. It's probably a state where nothing else exists, just you and the instrument, or
That,
the two of you together, right?
that's an important point, what you want to reach actually with the whole thing. Now we can see the result of number-driven RIAs, which basically puts it into a kind of sports. We can see that really on the classical stages today. And I don't want to write too much on it because it's everybody's choice what he wants to do with the music, where he wants to reach with the music. Of course, being a professional musician, especially when you're young, when you're starting, you don't have the name, you want to make yourself a place on the stage which is hard enough. Most of the young musicians see their only chance in excelling technically. Now,
Right.
if we take techniques, and most people mistake again techniques with speed, or they knock it all together,
Right.
Technically, sometimes I see young musicians with 20 in their 20s or something. They play faster and more clear than some of the well-known masters in previous decades played ever.
Okay.
Is it now that they have excelled those old masters? Is their music something which has gone beyond? I listen to this music and I'm very fast getting kind of, when is the music starting? When is the music starting? So it's a kind of side way, which is very understandable why it's happening. It's just in the zeitgeist, in the stream of how the whole world is running. Nobody has time for exploring something subtle or depths. So I have to throw you in the first half minute. I either convince you that I'm boof,
Yeah,
or
you're the real
you are
master.
gone. You already switched on to the next channel,
Right.
like some
Right.
of our live viewers,
Yes.
So, but then there is enough music. There are enough music forms where which are built for this type of a music to make the Rudra Veena also into something like that, that would be an utterly waste of the instrument, of the effort. There are even classical instruments which are, built to create a music form which more excels on faster kind of parts and other kind of techniques which can satisfy this part,
Right.
So when you come to Rudra Veena, I sing, and this is what we see today also. We have a small, very limited audience only, even within the fraternity of so-called classical music lovers. And you will see, or what I see today is, it's often even not the typical classical music lover who is anyway beyond 50, gray hair, no hair, and who has a certain education in music by listening for long decades to classical music, even maybe not a real understanding of rock and sings, but even this fraction of music lovers are mostly cannot gain too much from the music as we do it on the Rudra Veena, the old classical Drupad style. It's simply asking for too much of attention and a patient kind of a thing, which even the elder generation today is lacking. So if I might mention that, when I came 2-3 years the first time here to Pondicherry, 1-2 concerts which I had here were really mind-boggling for me in terms of experience, how the audience was listening. That they could listen for 2 hours and even more to pure, even without a percussion. There was no pakavach. I just played the Drupad alab on the Veena, and the people were listening and looking at you at the end like, why do you stop? Why do you stop? And that's not, you normally don't find that anymore, but that's actually where the music of the Veena, it's designed for that, for this experience to bring you somewhere inside.
Yes.
And that's rare enough that people are looking for it today. But of course, the necessity to do that
Right.
is growing, especially with all what you mentioned before, so much over offering for actually relaxing you. So you get very stressed out in taking all the necessary steps to relax your mind, So this music offers definitely another path where you actually just need to sit and give yourself. That's all. As hard it might be.
Now, we are going to hit 7 o'clock in another 10 minutes. So I'd like to share 1 or 2 points about the Center for Learning as well.
Please.
I hope you remember our initial conversation. Honestly, I don't remember the first exchange that we had. I'll have to go back, see our chat history and find out where we started talking from. So, but what I remember was your prompt willingness to come to my home, that is Wayanad, because we recently had a very bad episode. I feel as a nature lover, as a resident of this place, that the people and this part of planet needs to be healed. And that is, I was in a totally depressed state when I sent you that message saying that music like that from your Veena should do the job here. And whatever unfolded after that is a blessing, according to me, because I believe that mountains have, I agree that oceans are great, but I'm a mountain person. So I feel when it offers a chance for people to listen to something pure, like what you offer, that is going to be an amazing experience. And the Center for Learning, I look forward to have more and more interaction like this, where how you mentioned a few minutes back, when you try to go deeper into any subject for that matter, you will eventually find similarity, irrespective of your geographical positioning, your philosophical background, your political views. Ultimately, I feel it's all one. So I look forward to have more audience here in Wayanad on 15th and 16th, where we, even I was not aware of Baithak, that informal setting where people change there. I don't know what to call it. It's not music. It's not art. It's not knowledge. It's a kind of energy exchange or emotion exchange, whatever, where we all become one in the presence of Veena, if I may say so. So this is I can already start hearing the music from your instrument in my mind. I'm not. I can, even if nobody turns up, I'll be very happy to sit and listen to you alone. So,
Well, then we have shrunk it to the bare essence of what this kind of meetings are, you know. And 7 o'clock is approaching. For me on stage, it would mean I have to wind up and get into the jala portion, the faster ang, to get the people somewhere, you know. But let me take the time to take this when you said, you know, even I would sit just alone. There is a story of I would say a Vina master, but he was a Kuchin player. You know, the Kuchin is something like the Chinese kind of, let's say, Rudra Veena.
okay.
And he was living very remote in the mountains. There was just one servant of his who would always carry the instrument when the master would come to the villages and give the concert on special occasions and sings and so people knew this couple sort of, you know, the master would only come with this person in the back, and he would carry the instrument, the music, and then he would vanish.
Okay.
So some find they noticed that the master hasn't come for a long time. So they went just up the mountain to see whether he's well or anything has happened, you know. And then they found him sitting alone with the instrument, and apparently the servant had passed away.
Okay.
So they were just like giving the condolences and everything, and then they were saying, "But please, whenever your mood allows, you come back and give us a blessing of the blessing of your music, because without the blessing of your music, our life is not the same."
Right.
Months passed, second month, third month, the season changed. He didn't show up. So they came again. Same request, brought something for his maintenance and everything. He was just silent, listening to what they said. And they had to come a third time because he didn't show up. Then it was the first time that he was looking at them, and he said, as a kind of explanation why he wouldn't show up for playing to them as he usually did, he said, "You all perceived that he would be my servant who carried my instrument, took care of my shoes and my clothes, but in fact," he said, "he was the only listener I had." So when he is no more, why will I play, you know?
I promise I'll be a good listener.
I found this always, you know, it hits me straight in the core of, because there's so many sides to this whole story. It really shows the plight of anybody who has reached something deep, and how many people he can find to share that.
Right.
It's not only for musicians who go for the satellite. It's for so many people who have reached some, you know.
Right.
But at the same time, the kind of connection, dependency on something like that. At the same time, being so happy. Well, there's one. That's enough. This is, you know, to maybe give a end word for that, also to come back to your first question: what brought you to India? What brought you to Rudra Veena?
Right.
I possibly could have spent my creative potential and things in many ways. If Indian music would have not come my way, maybe I would have become just a filmmaker, a theater director, or whatever kind of expression. Even dance was not very far. This is when you're filled with so much of Saraswati Ma's blessing. Basically, it can flow in any way.
Anyway, yes.
Maybe I would have been an author, whatever way I would find it compelling. But
Right.
music, after all, is first of all the kind of medium and expression which is the most formless. lets you reach the nearest to the abstract, what we call the divine, the subtleness, which we can't put in words, which we can even not forcefully experience, but it can bring us very near to it.
Yes.
At the same time, it doesn't require much of outer settings. If you think about becoming a film director or something, the amount of people you need, of
Yes.
finances and whatever, you know. While with an instrument or with your music, with your vocal, you can just sit. One listener is definitely always with you. That's it. That's it. It sounds like a very high kind of an idol, but it's a very substantial truth of that. And to share this again, of course, with more people, that's a special joy because that's basically this one listener who was always there suddenly becomes manifold.
Manifold, yes.
And then it becomes a different kind of a dance and interaction.
Yes. I hope that will happen because that is the intent of opening up this space. It's a very basic setup that we have here because it's not or it's not powered by any foundation or anything. It's all in a small family's capacity that we are trying to do, and we are sharing our private space as well. So it has its own energies into it, and it has its own limitation as well. But I believe if one or two people are deeply touched with the presence of knowledge, as I see it, not music alone, that will be the achievement, if at all there is anything to achieve, that is. So um, we'll stay in touch, and I thank you very much for your time, for your consent to come online, and maybe we'll soon have a conversation tomorrow or day after to discuss the rest of the program.
Sure, it was a beautiful warm up. Tune in. We a little bit tuned the tempora, you know, to just create the ambience for the concert to happen. And of course, whatever organizational things we will continue. And once more for everybody who is maybe not has been listening live, but will listen to this later. So this possibility is there in 2 weeks on the 15th and 16th of February in Wayanad. Please get in touch directly with Aparna Ji. She can inform you about the possibilities to take part, either just in the concert, which happens on the 15th evening, or also on the Naada Yoga workshop, which happens on the Sunday. I think something we said 10 to 3 p.m., 10 a.m.
Yes.
To just give you roughly an idea. And it's not just for the music, it's not just for being with us, it's for the beauty of Wayanad and for the very special setup of the Center for Learning, which you are creating there. And I'm very sure we will all have amazing time, amazing sound, so American, you know, like you say it anytime, but I mean it in the truest sense of that something can happen there which otherwise we might not so easily experience. So I'm very much looking forward, invite you all to join us there whenever you have the possibility, and hopefully see you there.
So wish you a good evening, Carsten, and thank you once again.
I will straight pass on the word to this little one beside me, not the little one, the big one.
Right.
Take good care, have a nice evening too. We hear us very soon. Namaskaram.
Namaskaram.